let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, now, hello and welcome to the Polk County REIA located right here in Lakeland, Florida. We're so glad that you can join us tonight with our guest speaker, Denny Troncoso, who is going to share all kinds of wonderful information on multifamily investing. This is going to be a great evening, I'm telling you. I've been so excited to think about us being able to go over multifamily investing, okay? Denny is a seasoned investor with well over 10 years of experience in residential and commercial real estate. But then he didn't stop there, because he's not only a local investor, but he's also a real estate broker, and he and his wife own Troncoso Capital Group, a real estate investment firm that helps investors diversify with apartment buildings. His company holds ownership of real estate valued at over $10 million, consisting of apartment communities ranging in size from 20 to 50 units with investors. I love it that he has experience in syndications, million-dollar renovations, creative financing, and asset management. So we're going to hear some great information tonight. I mean, we are so glad to have you. Welcome, Denny. And Denny, right away, I have two questions for you that are very important. The first one is, did I completely mispronounce your name and the name of your company? Did I botch that so incredibly bad, or how did I do on your last name there?
Oh, you actually did perfectly well. I think you did fantastic. So good job.
Oh, good. Well, Pete needs, he told me I might be on the right track with that. The second question is, I wanted to know, now while you're doing your presentation tonight, would you like people to ask you questions during the presentation, or would you like them to save them for the end? How would you like that?
So that's a great question. So what I was going to do is I was going to share that the questions, I can take maybe one or two questions throughout, but if it starts getting a little bit too much, we may want to hold them until the end. I plan for the goal about an hour. So it's going to be about 50 minutes and then about 10 minutes of questions. I can't stay for the meeting after the meeting because I have put to bed duty. We have a 1-month-old. That's why Desiree's not here.
Oh.
Yes. So right after here, I get to kind of check in, take my investor hat off and then put my dad hat on and then put.
I love it.
But I will have my contact information at the end. So if someone wants to reach out to me, we can kind of talk offline.
Okay. And as I said earlier, anybody that has questions and you don't want to interrupt Denny, put them over there in the chat, and Adrian and I, we will monitor that very closely. And Denny, you don't have to worry about even looking at it. We will make sure that at some point at the end, we get those questions answered. How's that? That'll make it perfect.
That sounds great. Excellent.
All right. So Denny, tell us about yourself and how in the world you got into all this fun stuff.
Well, what I'm going to do is I actually have a presentation for you. And then if I could, I'm going to share my screen here. Well, it says you have to allow me to share the screen.
Oh, okay. Let me do that. I'm going to make you a co-host, maybe. Yes. Okay, there you go. I think you can do it.
Let's see.
Now.
Okay. Let's see.
If this isn't working, play us a little tune with that piano in the background there. How's that?
That's actually part of what we're going to be doing today.
Can
everybody see that? Let's see. Can everybody see my screen?
I don't see it. Not yet.
No? Okay, let's try this here. Share.
Adrian, can you help him in any way that he might need?
Nope. I have to be next to him.
How about
there we go. There we go.
Oh, okay. Now we see Adrian.
Let's see.
We see the screen.
Yeah, we see it now.
The screen? Yeah. Okay, but you guys see yourselves at the bottom too, right?
Yep, and we see you have a translating a little captions at the bottom.
Oh, really? Cool. I don't know. I didn't even know how to, I set that up, but okay.
Is it good like that?
Oh, yeah, it's saying all the stuff we're saying. Huh.
Yeah. I don't want to.
Don't worry about it. That's pretty cool.
Let's see.
I like it. My English is not very good, so I can read instead.
Okay.
Can't even read English. You're one step ahead of me, bro.
All right. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Because I know you can see the bottom part, but I don't know how to remove it. So my apologies. Let's see. Maybe there. Okay. How about that? All right, everybody. So first of all, I'd like to thank Liz for having me tonight. She told me that this is a meeting that is kind of for recovering real estate investors. So we're going to talk all about our nightmare deals. Is that about right, Liz? Can you hear me, everybody?
We can hear you.
Sorry, I muted myself.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So
yes, we are recovering real estate investors. Yes, we
exactly.
are.
And then tonight, it's going to be more of, I told Liz that I was going to do more of a little bit for everybody. There's some advanced people here that have much more experience than me. I'm hoping to kind of share a little bit what we're doing right now in this market. Hopefully that adds a little bit to the fire and keeps that motivation going for what you're doing in your business. And maybe it allows us to possibly collaborate on something in the future. Same thing with new people that are getting started. I'm hoping that this kind of gives you an idea and a possibility of what you can do, because we started from nothing. You know, I wasn't a real estate investor. My family wasn't real estate investors, so it was. It's really, we're really just thankful for where we are. So I think this is something that you can really do as well. So it has a little bit for everybody in this presentation. Let's see here. All right, so a quick introduction to me. I'm a UCF grad, so go Knights. And I'm a lifetime member over at CFREIA and a past board member there for about 4 years. And really, that's how kind of my career started, by volunteering for the group. So I'm really thankful for the group for what we've been able to accomplish. And then we're also partnered in about 122 units of multifamily properties that we'll talk a little bit about some of those deals tonight. And then, of course, got to put the disclosure in there. All the information is for educational purposes only. Before you make any financial decisions, talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney, right? It's not that you can't apply everything that you're learning, but it's also that it has to be applied the right way. So just kind of covering ourselves, CYA, right? And to start with this quote, I'm a big fan of John Maxwell. I don't know if there's any other fans of John Maxwell. And I'd like to keep this interactive. I know that we're online, but I would have loved to see everybody's face. So I know that there's some, I think there may be some like thumbs ups and stuff that you can use. And if you can, please try to use it for when you see something that you like or that's pretty cool. And a smiley face wouldn't hurt here and there either. So wisdom is we can learn from our own mistakes, and that's a great way to learn. We can also learn from others' mistakes, which is a better way to learn. But the wisest person learns from other people's successes. So let's try to learn not only from your mistakes, from others' mistakes, but also from others' successes. So we'll be sharing some of the successes that we've been blessed to have. And just kind of a little bit of another background on me. So it all started with a recession. And can anyone remember the 2005 boom and the 2008, 2009 crash, right? So not one hand, but two hands. And I was really young at the time. My parents actually were involved, and I was really getting my licenses, my real estate license, my mortgage license, and really serving as kind of just watching the market, but also being a bit of a translator for what they were doing. And they weren't really successful. They ended up buying 3 houses and they lost them all. And I posted this in like a Medium article if you want to dig a little deeper on more of that story. But it was crash and burn, and it was tough, and there was bankruptcy involved. But I learned that there were some things that were done wrong. I mean, of course, the timing was bad, but also the way that was invested was not the right way. So I still had an itch for real estate. And then I ran into this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I hope a lot of people in this call have read. And if you haven't, please order this book because it's going to give you a good introduction to what real estate investing is all about. It's not really a business book. It's not really just a real estate book. It's kind of like an everything book about business. So pick it up. So I read that book and it motivated me to get financial education. And I joined CFRI, and then I started looking at houses. I just started looking at a lot of stuff that was on the market. And some of them like were just completely destroyed. I remember I saw my first house. It was like a 4,000 square foot house, and it didn't have anything. It didn't even have toilets in it. But I had a dream. I was like, you know what? I want to get into this real estate thing. I didn't even know anything about money. I didn't know anything about hard money. I didn't know anything, but I wanted to get in it. So I just kind of kept digging for information and looking for it. So I felt confused. I felt unsure. And then I kept looking for it. So I joined CFRI. I read every book possible I could on the subject. And at the time, I think some podcasts as well. But most important thing, one of the things I did was marketing. So we started marketing, and I started with a couple of guys. We partnered and we started marketing together and just putting up signs. Every Friday, it was, instead of hanging out Friday night, it was signs night. So we would put 25 signs a week. And then the first day of signs, that when we would put them up, the first time we learned that a small sign didn't get a lot of calls, but then we tried a bigger sign, and that sign actually generated more calls. And then we said, okay, well, what if we try a white sign? And then that generated some more. But then if we tried yellow and black. So the great thing about continuously doing it and being consistent, it allowed us to test the market and see what type of marketing worked and what didn't. And that's kind of 101 with marketing, with kind of changing in letters, is changing your message and changing your headline and changing, the stamp and changing the envelope size and the different things. And after doing that for about a year, we got our first deal, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, bought it for $30,000, sold it for $52,000, wholesale deal. I think we were super excited. We thought we were, kind of kings of the universe. We were like, early 20s at the time. Now, throughout that time, I've done other deals, kind of separated from that partnership. We worked together. It was fun. But a partnership is supposed to add things more than fun. People are supposed to have different strengths. And then we were just young guys, kind of the same personalities, just kind of doing things together. But then throughout that, I've done fix and flips. I've done subject to deals, creative financing, joint ventures, and also bought some rental properties. Fast forward 5 years later, Desiree, who's not here on our call, which is my wife now, at the time was my girlfriend. She had, we had started investing together about around 2013, and she had done an internship in commercial real estate. And she said, you know what, I really, I think you're doing great with houses. I was doing like 3-4 flips a year, part-time. But I think I would like to do commercial real estate. I think I would like to do apartment buildings. And I was like, okay, well, let's give it a couple more years and see how it goes. One thing that it worked out really well is that Desiree brings different strengths than I bring, right? So I'm the people face person, but she's like the task person, the accounting person, the systems person. So it really worked out really well. So that's a tip right there for when you're working in this business, is to either find what your strengths are, or if you have things that you're lacking that you want to move your business forward, you may need to find people that have those strengths so you guys can do it together to achieve that goal that you have in this business. And that could be from marketing, talking to people, capital, completely different things. And we chose apartment buildings. And why did we choose apartment buildings? Well, we had a couple of houses. We were earning like $600, $800 between the two houses, cash flow per month. And that wasn't enough, and we wanted to grow. And then I was trying to buy duplexes, and it was taking so much time. So we wanted more cash flow, and we wanted it faster, and we wanted to grow faster. And then, of course, everybody likes apartments because everyone needs a place to live. So I consider it a conservative investment. So we went and we got some education, and we started doing marketing. And at the end of, we started doing marketing in January, I believe it was. And then in about May, so 5 months or so more or less, we found this 24 unit apartment complex. So it's 3 buildings here in Florida. The property was an expired listing, and it didn't sell, but the person needed to sell, and they had just dropped the price by about $100,000. And it was just right timing. And one of the first things I did is I built a relationship. Right? So that's a great tip right there when you're talking to sellers or you're talking to investors. Build a relationship with the person. So I talked to the seller. I just had a conversation, human to human. What is it that you're looking for? What is it that you need? I made sure to call her when I told her I would call her. I made sure to keep a clear line of communication and call her consistently throughout the process. We ended up closing. We found the property around May, I believe. We didn't end up closing all the way until December 1st for different reasons, but it took a while to get it home. And talking about challenges, our first deal, I called. I didn't know I had a relationship with investors, but we needed about $192,000, and I had just started the business of commercial real estate, of apartments. I had borrowed money to buy houses, but I didn't really have a track record, right, with apartments. But I talked to one of my investors and I told her I wanted to buy my first apartment. And she said, well, I've let you borrow money before. You've paid me on time. You've kept a good line of communication with me. Yes, if you find an opportunity, it makes sense, you bring it to me and I'll work with you. And so that right there is another tip for you. So if you can fulfill your obligations, you can pay people on time, you can communicate with people. Communication is so important. People like to do business more if they like you, even if they're going to make less money. So that person worked with us on this deal, and she's worked with us on 4 of our other deals in total. And we bought this property. We needed to, it was kind of like the classic value add opportunity. So a value add opportunity in commercial real estate is when you find something and you can increase the value. And how commercial real estate works instead of houses is houses work where you find a house for 100,000, and then if other houses are selling for 150,000 renovated, you can sell it for 150. Well, with commercial real estate, it all depends on the income that the property is producing. So if one property is right next to each other and one's producing more income than the other, then it's just more valuable. And so we found ways to increase the income of this property. How do you increase income? We looked at what were the rents at. We noticed that the rents were below market by $100 to $200. So we said, okay, we can increase those rents. We saw that the expenses, the management fees, were higher than what they needed to be. For an apartment complex, we shopped the area. What should management fees be? We looked at the trash. How much was that? We looked at the pest control. How much was that? So we went right down the line of all the income and expenses, and we were able to increase the income significantly. I believe that when we bought the property, the income was like around 160,000, 170,000. And then when we sold the property, it was higher by about $40,000 per year in income. So if you multiply, it starts getting, there's a lot of math involved that I'm not going to really get into because it gets a little complex, but there's a cap rate for those of you that are just getting started. You may want to research that, and that gives it a value. So we were able to sell this property last year in December for over double of what we paid for it. Right. So that's really, our investors were really happy for how we did. And then they're already asking on what new projects we can do from there. I know I'm kind of going. Any questions so far? I can't see the chat, and I don't know if everyone's muted.
I have a question, Danny.
Yes.
Did you purchase it with owner financing, or your investor funded the whole purchase?
That's a great question. All right, so we didn't purchase it with seller financing, and the investor didn't fund it. So we purchased it with a bank, and that kind of brings me back. When we got started, when you're going to buy a property like this, you need 2 types of money. You need debt, you need money from a bank or from seller financing most of the time, and you need equity, right? So you need the down payment. And we needed to borrow from a bank about $750,000. And I contacted over 20 or 30 banks because I wanted to borrow 80% to hit our target numbers. And I wanted a 25-year amortization schedule so we can have more cash flow. And most banks said, no, we don't do that, right? And then the other thing that they said, and this is something that they did, is they say, nobody will do that, all right? So when I love it when banks say that, or when other people say that, because they don't know what other people do. So at that point, you just listen courteously, and then you go and you look for the person that does what you do. So guess what happened? I found 2 banks after contacting 20 or 25 of them that did what I needed. And so we closed with a loan for $750,000. And then we put down close to $200,000 as a down payment. The price was $900,000, closing costs, everything went up to about $42,000 because we also did some renovations as well. So did that answer your question? Hopefully. All right, so the internal rate of return, something maybe if you're getting started, you may not understand the finance. It's just
I have one more question. I'm sorry, Denny, then about that. As far as, can you explain, I mean, as far as residential real estate, the market has a lot to do with it. We're in the commercial space. It's really what rents. So even in the residential, let's say, you know, prices are shooting up, but even if prices don't shoot up as far as, but rents shoot up, then in the commercial space, those properties will increase in value, even if residential prices do not increase, correct? So I think if you explain that to them also, so that basically residential prices could go down and decrease and plummet, where the commercial space, even though lenders may be a little bit more cautious, but as long as rents continue to rise, those commercial prices will continue to rise correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I say kind of what you're mentioning has like like you're right, kind of just about right. So what I'm saying is, the reason I say that is because rents are a factor, but also expenses. So if a property has high expenses, that's a factor. And then also with if rents increase, yes, that will increase the value of the property. But what's something that I do, or that we focus on doing, is we're not buying properties, and this is just our strategy. We're not buying property expecting rents to go up. We're buying properties looking at the market rents that are today and seeing properties that the rents are not at the market rate, so we can buy it and increase it to the market rate. And that is a more conservative way to invest, because you don't know, rents could go up, but at what percentage you don't know. So everybody invests in a different way, but that's just our strategy. But that's a good point, Susan. The last thing I'll mention about this slide is make sure is the internal rate of return. It's this is just the return over time of this investment. And this is something that's used more in commercial real estate, of when you're working with investors. And even if you're buying a property yourself, what is the property, the return, the internal rate of return that you will generate? And this property generated a 38% internal rate of return. And the average return right now in the market is around 15%. Okay, around 15%. So this property did fantastically well, and this is a really good way to start. I saw a hand raised. We're going to hold it until the end for right now, just to make sure we have enough time. Let's go. Okay, so fast forward. So we did that deal. We bought it. We sold it. And we did a few deals from here to there, and we reached 2020, right? Which is supposed to be the end of the world, right? Right? I mean, hasn't been a pandemic in about 100 years, and we got it in 2020. And in 2020, we were working on in about 2018, I believe is when it was. We found this 42 unit apartment complex. It was listed on the market by a realtor. Anybody could have found it on the MLS. And we found it and we got under contract. But when we got under contract, we were scheduled to close like in September of that year. We think we found it like in May, and we were going to close in September. Property needed a lot of work. We did homework. We were going to buy, they had like land with it. But the seller said, you know, the land, after we did some homework, we're like, oh no, we're not going to buy the land. We just want to buy the apartments. And then in about September of that year, the seller said, you know what? They just disappeared. They stopped communicating. We had already, when you're going to buy a property in a house, you do inspections. So you do the same thing in commercial real estate. We do inspections. We have to do a physical inspection. We have to do an environmental inspection. We were buying with special financing, so the inspections were very expensive. We do an appraisal. And these inspections easily could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 each. We also, when we're raising money from investors, we get a securities attorney, and we pay them to file what's called a private placement memorandum, which this is a kind of $10,000 to $15,000 document. So we had spent close to $25,000 to $30,000 just to buy this property. And the seller changed their mind. They stopped communicating with us. They stopped doing, you know, we just didn't know what to do. So what we ended up doing with this, we actually opened up our first ever litigation. So we went into a lawsuit, and let me tell you, the legal system is made for rich people, because we went into this lawsuit and it took over a year and a half before we can get the right court date that we needed. And then after we got the right court date, we had to go to mediation, and our attorney said, look, you know, you have a great case, but in the end, you can't really force, it's a really difficult situation to force somebody to sell their property, et cetera, et cetera. So after all that, we could possibly get our money back, right? Luckily, we were able to come to mediation and come to an agreement with the seller. After doing more research, the market had changed. It was kind of 2 years later. And we agreed that we would buy the property, the 42 units, and we would buy the land. And we agreed on a price of $2.3 million. So we just closed this property last year in, I believe it was about June of last year, for about $2.3 million. And the property itself right now, there's 16 units that we are renovating, and they were never completed. And these are the 16 units that you can see here. They're all one story. We're finishing them up, and we're gonna go ahead and rent those units. And the rents in the area, that's gonna allow us to not only generate more cash flow for the property, which is a higher value, but also we got the land for the price we paid, technically almost for, you know, I don't wanna say for free, but at a great price. So we're looking to do our first development deal with the land that we already own on this property. We are, you know, kind of going through the process of the architecture and working with civil engineers and everything else there. Now, after we finish up the renovations, the property is going to be renting for about $1 and change a square foot. So we expect that the cash flow is going to be about $12,000 on average. And this is, of course, for the entire group, not just for us. This is for all of our investors and ourselves. And then we would, you know, split up the cash flow from there. And then the estimated internal rate of return on this investment will be over 20%. So we get to also give a great return to investors that have worked with us before, because we actually sold another property and we did a 1031 exchange into this property. So those people are just gonna kind of get their money right into another investment as well. Any questions so far on this one? And I know there was another question on the other one. Maybe that one I can answer now as well.
Yes, I think Pablo had a question. Maybe he's ready for you. Pablo? Oh, maybe not. Maybe he did. There you go.
Was this property up near St. Leo's College in Ocala?
Yes.
I looked at that property. That's funny.
You did.
I did.
You did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a small world.
Why did
it's a
it keep it vacant for so long? They had everything done with the electrical, and it was sitting there. That was strange.
Yeah, that's a crazy story there. I think that's probably a longer story than we can be on this call.
I figured, but okay, well, that's
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's,
I had a
it was,
big chunk of
it was-
land in the back already too.
yeah, I don't know exactly why, but I just know that, you know, working with the city and some of the costs to develop it and the requirements of, you know, having a sprinkler system and connections for the city, it was just going to be really expensive, which we have to pay, you know, just in connecting to the city, it's going to cost like $200,000, you know, so that's probably why maybe they were hesitant after when they started the property in the 1980s, and then they went to finish it in the 2000s.
Yeah.
They
It
didn't
sat
want
from
to.
the 1980s until now. Then you
Yeah.
guys are actually finishing it. That's great.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So
Are
everybody.
you going to develop that back side of that?
Excuse me.
Are you going to develop those 17 acres in the back or?
It's 35. Yeah, we're going to develop it in
35, yeah.
phases. Yep. We're going to plan on developing in phases. We're actually working on getting it all entitled right now. So everybody talks about the property. Like we bring in vendors and everybody's like, man, this has been like this for so many years. Like it's great that you guys are
Long
doing that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fantastic just to see the people's reaction to it. Like we got a new sign and everybody's like, oh my God, thank goodness for getting rid of that old sign because the sign was falling down. So it's just, it's really good, you know, just
It's
that
good
part
you
of,
got rid of that management company because I called them, they wouldn't talk to me. I even put myself on the list as a renter. They wouldn't talk to me. They
oh,
were a good management company.
yeah, no, they're not managing it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about them other than that. But
Yeah.
any other questions by anyone?
How did you find the property?
It was listed on the MLS.
Yeah. That's how I found it.
Yep.
I think that's the lesson here too, Denny, that we want to emphasize, because I can't tell you how many properties I've bought right off of the MLS when other people were saying, well, there's just no deals out there. There's no deals out there. But it's all in how you are looking at it, maybe differently than anybody else, or the step you're willing to take a little further than somebody else.
Of course, of course. I would say one thing about, you know, I've sold 2 properties last year. That's a great point, Liz. I sold 2 properties last year, commercial properties, 120 units, 124 units. Really, I think both of those properties were a great opportunity for the 20 unit would have been a great property to hold and even flip maybe in a few years, had some value add still on it. And then the 24 unit too. And a lot of people would call, a lot of people would ask for information, but very few people would make offers, right? So that's one thing. A lot of people don't make offers. I think as an investor, I gave you the recommendation, seeing it from a broker's perspective and an owner, is that even if you look at the property and you're not, maybe you're still, you like it, but you're not 100% sure if the seller will take it, make an offer. It shows that you're serious, and then keep that conversation going. And that's how I bought another property, or we bought another property, is we followed a property for like a year. The property was listed for a year. And this is another property, but it was overpriced. The rents weren't there. But over that year, guess what happened? The price didn't change, but the rents went up. So when I went to go buy it, I ended up getting it. I made a lower offer. The seller accepted. And then we ended up buying it and sold it for like a great price many years later, 3 years later. So just make an offer. It shows you're serious, and you never know what you're going to get as from submitting an offer.
I
That's
have
a
another
great
question.
lesson, right?
Oh, sorry.
Sure, go for it.
Yeah, you're mentioning that you need to tie in the utilities into the city. I
Mhm.
think you said something like $200,000. Are they helping you with any of that? Is there any kind of program that you guys are using that they pay some of it, or is it all on you guys to do that?
Not right now. They're not. We've had conversations with them, and they have not as of yet. So good question.
Thank you.
All right. So this slide is for investors, for people that have capital and they're looking to invest it, but also from the people that are out there looking for deals and you want to partner with investors. So this is kind of the things that you should be prepared for when you're talking to people. And the first one is I look to the investor is to build a relationship. I'm not looking someone just to invest money with me, because there's a lot of people that can invest money, but if you don't get along, forget it, right? Because this is especially with what we're doing, we're looking to invest with people for 3 to 5 years. And we want to be able to have people that we can call on and they can understand what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, that we can have a conversation. We don't need to be best friends, but we want to have a relationship with that person. So that's something who you want to do business with as an investor is someone that you can get along with and that you can give feedback to, and that also is going to be willing to accept when you get feedback. I've also invested in people's deals to get started. I partnered with someone at the beginning, and that person, if I learned very quickly that they don't really listen. They're not open to advice, and the deal's not performing very well. And I think at a large percentage, they're responsible for it. There's been other things that have happened, but if they would listen, the deal could be going in a different direction. So you want to have people that you can communicate with. Number two is you want to look at past projects. You know, what have they done in the past? Maybe they haven't done an apartment complex yet, if they're buying an apartment complex, but what have they done with the houses they purchased? You know, how did they renovate them? How did they work with past investors? Talk to maybe realtors that they've spoken to. So you want to find out who that person is by looking at what the work that they've done in the past. And that's a great way to do that. Get referrals. So talk to people in the investor organization. One thing that one of the investors had told me that she invested with me, she's like, look, Denny, I've worked with you before and I've heard a lot of things about you. I spoke to someone that told me don't invest. They said don't invest, but because I've worked with you before, I trust you. I spoke to someone else that said, look, I'm interested in investing, but who do you know of this organization that they could, that I could talk to them about past deals? And I introduced them and they gave me they explained how everything had to work. So get referrals from people that you know before investing with people, check their background. And then the other thing is ask hard questions. Hard questions that you can ask to the person that's doing the deal. So if someone that's syndicated before is, have you ever missed a distribution? I would ask, hey, I would love to see I would like to see your credit score or your credit report, because I want to see how you're paying your bills. Not that anyone can, if they have a bankruptcy or anything. I don't have any bankruptcy, but if someone had a bankruptcy, but it was 2008 or there's an explanation, that's fine. But at least you want to see how someone's doing with their own personal responsibilities before investing with them. And there's just many other things that if you're putting your money into someone's deal, you should ask some of those hard questions. Any questions here?
No, nobody's got anything for you just yet.
Okay.
There's a few things that they'll be asking at the end, though.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right, so here's some kind of final thoughts. And I said, as you are so you know final. Let's call them closing words. I like this quote by Craig Armstrong. So I told Liz I was going to give you guys some tips on how to break in, right? And how to break in is, the first one is persistence. I told the story at the beginning of calling 20 to 30 lenders. Most of them said no. We found one lender because of a referral, and that lender did our loan kind of at the 11th hour. So don't give up on a deal. If you know it's a good deal, if you know it's a good investment, don't give up on it. I talked to a whole bunch of investors too on our first investment, and most people said, they either didn't respond or just weren't interested. So just be open. For young people that are getting started, man, you got to be a little bit naive to believe that you can buy an apartment complex. Sometimes, I got to pinch myself to what we're be able to do, because getting started, buying a house for $30,000 was difficult. But just believe that you can do it and put in the work behind it to then accomplish it. The next thing is experience or education. And you have to get an education to do this. It's either you read books, podcasts. Some people can learn that way, which there's some great books on the topic. I can send me an email. I can recommend some. That's a way to enter the business. Also seminars. I went the route. I also got a formal education as well. I got some real estate education at UCF. But also you can break in other ways through experience. You can go work as a property manager on the commercial side. You can go work as a property appraiser on the commercial side. So just know that there's other ways. You can go work for a real estate investment company, a real estate developer. Just know that there's different ways to break in. Find what works for you. The last one is also something else that we did. We kind of did everything. You also can partner, bring a deal to someone or bring capital and partner with someone that does deals, and then you can learn from them. And we did a little bit of both. The next one is action. And with action, it goes is do the marketing, submit the offers. I can't say, so many people that I meet that they're like, I talk to them, they're getting started and they're like, oh no, I'm still setting up my corporation. It frustrates me because they're just wasting time. Look, when we did our first deal, it took a year for us to set up our corporation. We talked to a CPA. He's like, yes, you can set up an LLC and all that. But look, it takes a day to set up an LLC. Just go ahead and start marketing and start finding deals and then make offers. And once you need your LLC, then you can set that up. I'm not saying don't set up your LLC, but what I'm telling you is don't let that be a hindrance to you to start doing marketing. That's the most important thing. And then the last one is find your niche. I know I'm talking about multifamily today. I'm hoping this is an introduction to multifamily, but I also don't want you to just jump into multifamily because you think it's great because we're doing it. I also want you to make sure that you like multifamily and it's something that you would enjoy doing. Not everybody is set to operate properties with people that are living in them, residents. There's so many different types of commercial real estate. There's hotels, which is more of an operating business. There's retail, which is changing now, but a great opportunity. There's development, there's office, there's industrial. Find what you really enjoy doing, and that's gonna allow you to be more passionate, more excited, and putting the time and effort to do it. Because the why is so important, but also the passion to put in the time and effort is super important. And if I haven't said it enough, I wanted to make sure to hit you over the head with it. It's marketing, marketing, marketing. We found some deals on the MLS, but we also found deals through doing letters or just calling the seller directly that we found that they were selling their property or they own the property and we just called them. I love this quote as well. And this is like the man in the arena. And the story is that when you're in the arena, you're in the battle, you're going to get bloody, you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get dusty. But you're in the arena, you're in that battle. So just know that that's where the magic happens. That's where the great things happen when you're in that arena, when you're in that battle. So just remember that. And then this is, one of my whys. I just want to share. My dad, he brought me when I was 3 from the Dominican Republic. And my dad is a maintenance man. He actually got an accounting degree in Dominican Republic, but here in the United States, because he doesn't speak a lot of English, he works as a maintenance tech at an apartment complex here in Orlando. But guess what? This year we went and we bought this apartment complex. This is the largest one. And I was able to walk the property with him. And I just want to see the smile on his face where he sees from being, where he's at in a maintenance tech. And then now his son is owning apartments, and just the opportunity that we're going to be able to, support our family, our immediate family, but also our parents as well.
Wow, that is an amazing story right there. That's a great picture of him there, and now you own it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It was impactful. Just thankful for that. This is one of my favorite books here. It's The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And there's another gentleman where I got this from, and he's a very successful developer. And he said, by living in the United States, we're blessed. Just being in this room, being in this front of this computer, probably more blessed than 90% of the people on earth. So use some of those blessings to give back, whether it's your time or your money. And then also when you learn some of the knowledge on building wealth and everything, is share it with other people. You don't necessarily have to mentor everybody, because a lot of people come from mentorship. I think mentorship is like an overrated word. But guide people and say, hey, read this book. This is where you can get started. If you have any questions, reach out. I always try to do that when people are getting started. And with that, I'm happy investing. I'm here to answer any questions. This is our podcast. I'll kind of mention it at the end. We have a podcast where we try to Haven't posted that many episodes. It's more of a hobby, but it has some really good episodes on multifamily and real estate and wealth building that we put together.
Oh, great. And so let's put that back for a second to make sure people get that, because that'd be really great for us to support you on that. Everything about wealth. Okay. Got it. Got it. And I have some questions that have come in. Okay. So if you're ready for that.
Sure. I'm ready.
Okay. So a couple of things. I think it was back there when you had the photographs of your complexes. The first one where they weren't working on it wasn't the rehab, it was the other one. They were wondering what like right now during this period of time, what's your vacancy rate, and what are you charging for your rent on those? Are those 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms? What, maybe you mentioned it, but they didn't get that.
Yeah, we didn't really go in deep with the rents. So right now we just sold that property December 31st, right in the nick of the end of the year. When we sold it, I believe we had 1 vacancy, or it might have been occupied. And I think out of 24 units, so it was either like 90, 97, 98%, or 100%. And it was the rents for that property, they were 2 bedrooms and 1 bedroom units, and they range from about $700 to $800.
Okay. And were you doing your own management? I know you are a realtor and a property management company, but were you managing them yourself, or did you have somebody else doing that?
Great question. So because we were living in Orlando before, which we're still living in Orlando now, we're going to be living in Ocala probably here soon. Because of the logistics, the location, which was about an hour and 40 minutes away, we hired a third-party property management company to oversee the property. Initially we went through 2 managers. First, we kept the ones that were already managing it, and we weren't happy. We had a bit of a personality conflict there, like just we didn't fit. Then the next one we hired, they just weren't very experienced and didn't really run it the way we wanted. So we hired a third manager, and he's done a good job for the last 3 years, close to 3 years or so. But where our business is heading in the direction is really nobody manages property like you're going to manage it in the end.
That's right. Yeah.
You try to find somebody that does a good job because they're just focused on so many other properties, right? We have had a lot of their focus because we give them so much business. We probably have 30 to 50% of their portfolio, but at the same time, it's still, they don't manage it all the way you do. So at this point, we're considering, that's where the property management company is coming in, where we're going to start doing in-house very soon. Okay.
Because that's a big one. You know, we have good property managers in our area, and many of us do our own as well on our single family homes and smaller stuff like that. Tell me, when you're looking for someone to manage something that large, what are the things that you are looking for in those property managers? Because that might be different than single family or anything else.
That's a good question. So the first thing I look at to find managers is I look at either NARPM, the National Association of Registered Residential Property Managers, or IREM, which is the Institute of Real Estate Management. I like them to be a member of those organizations, and maybe that they have some schooling in those organizations. They have like a lot of training and experience requirements before they're kind of like a certified property manager, is what, at least with IREM. So that helps to find that. And then experience is a big deal, right? So if someone has experience that they've managed property for a while, they've been doing it for a while, that's a good indicator. The next thing is, you know, are they going to be able to, do they have the team in place, you know, to take on the additional work? Because when we're bringing in a property, it's not just one house, right? We're bringing in 24, 50 units or more. Do they have the manpower to do it? How many units are they managing now? How many units are they going to be managing after? You talk about what marketing are they doing? You know, how are they marketing the property? You talk about how can residents pay rent? You talk about, you know, what fees are they charging? Of course, you know, we're not opposed to paying a little bit more for better service, but the price can't be too much more higher than the market. We need to be paying, you know, something in line with the market. There's a range, and there's a list of questions that we kind of go through whenever we're hiring managers for a property. I hope that answered your
Now, on single family houses, I know a lot of property managers are charging 8 or 10%. You know, is that the kind of ranges that you're getting in a multi-unit thing like what you guys have, or is it more than that or less than that?
Great question. So when we had our if you talk to different managers, you're going to get different responses to this question, right? But when we did our 24 unit property, they were paying like 10% in management fees plus like half month's rent or something like that, and that's
Right.
too much for a 24 unit property for all that business that you're giving them. So we believe that 8% was more in line with the market, and then either a small lease up fee that was more in line. Lately, because we have so much business, like over 30 units, we're really down to 6%, and a small lease up fee. We pay like $50 a lease, you know, renewals and lease up, and that's more in line with the market. But every market is different, right? So if, let's say you're talking about New York City or Miami, where there's just 10 or 20 or 30, 40 companies that are managing property, that's gonna, you know, reduce those fees quite a bit. You just have to make sure that for what you're getting, you're not you don't want to just get the cheapest person because it's the cheapest person. You want to make sure that they have systems in place that they can really provide a great service for those low fees. Like, you know, one of the things I believe in personally, I believe in great customer service. I'm not trying to provide a D-class property. We really want to focus on kind of that B space. So if we want to provide great service, then, you know, you need to have the manpower or the systems in place, whether that's technology, like, you know, answering services, you know, anything like an application, phone application, et cetera, so you don't have to have so much employees to be able to provide low fees. Hopefully that answered your question.
Denny,
Yes, definitely.
have you ever considered or tried on-site management? Give up a unit in one of your complexes?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Another one. So on-site management, right? Having a manager on site. Typically, you want to start that when you're at 50 units and above, right? And then we had one property that actually did have an office, but we didn't really use it for that. We used it more for storage. The property manager themselves already had an office, and they were doing it as a fee-based. We haven't considered that. We have considered kind of like a residential manager where we hire a tenant, we give them a room, you know, they have an apartment, and then we kind of thought about that at one point before we found this manager that we have now for 3 years. But the on-site manager we would consider once we start getting over that 50 to 100 unit mark, but not the math on giving up a unit. I think I've done it, and it just wasn't something that we wanted to do at the time. But what we're planning on doing is building more units at the complex that we just bought, is really consolidating, and then at that point have on-site managers in-house that we oversee as employees. And that's one of the reasons also that we went ahead and without on-site managers, is because you really need to have, I did the math, you need to have how much you're paying them, how much time is it going to cost to oversee them? Can you get a quality person for the amount of hours? Like, let's say if it was part-time, we didn't believe that we could. We didn't really try, and we had a good manager. So we said, let's just stick with the person that we're at, and they've done a good job for us. You know, we took a few properties from, you know, we increased market value on a couple of properties. Like you saw one was close to $1 million, and then the other one was like $500,000. And but we're just kind of the properties that we're buying are just a little bit larger, and you know, some of our goals are changing, so we want to increase our quality of service.
I know that several folks that I know that have invested in larger properties like this, they tried the manager living there. And here's the two things I heard from them the most often is, number one, the manager can have a burnout because there's too much access from the tenants to them. And it becomes a 24/7 situation. And so they're burnout and they leave, and then you have to replace them and all that. So the other thing was that if you need to get rid of them, they live there, and that can become another problem of getting rid of them. And they can create a very negative situation there while they're there, and you're getting rid of them too. So it can turn into something negative. Yeah.
You know, I haven't thought of those things, you know, because we didn't get that far ahead. But I think those are very valid concerns, especially the first one. Like I've talked to property managers, and that, you know, when they get a property manager typically gets like on site, they'll typically get a free unit with there, and a lot of those managers don't even use them. In the last conversations that I got with them, and it's probably that it's the access. You know, people want to leave their job and they don't want to be still at their job, right? Like.
Right.
People are going to knock on their door, you know, because their refrigerator stops working, right? Or plumbing's leaking, right? When they should be calling the answering service or maintenance or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I have one acquaintance that owns about 600 doors, and so you can imagine what that's like. And he said that after a certain number in a complex, those tenants can start to think of it as a concierge service. It's almost like, because they want things done, they want it done quickly. I mean, and they all talk to each other. So he actually likes them in smaller, like what you're talking about, 25, 50, less than 100 units per, you know, property. Anything over that, he says it starts to be a psychological thing to create. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you know, that's interesting. That's a great point. I'm looking at it, and we're not there yet, of course, but what we're looking at it is for larger complexes to kind of eventually get there, is so we can have more control. And really on-site manager, on-site assistant manager, on-site maintenance person, on-site, you know, a maintenance tech. And then that way we can run a tighter ship and offer a higher quality service to the resident. And looking at the resident as a partner instead of, you know, just someone that's living in your property. And that way, especially, you know, at B+ properties, where if you're offering them a great service, they may want to stay longer. You're not going to have that much turnover, and also that's going to keep your operating costs a bit lower on the maintenance side when you have those things that are being done in-house, because contractors can get expensive. But at the same time, also you have, you know, employees also start adding up. So it's kind of finding that balance with it.
Right. You know, Jimmy Green has a question over in chat. Jimmy, are you available so that you can unmute yourself and ask Denny this question? I think it's a great question. Jimmy?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
There you are. Hey, Jimmy. Denny, this is Jimmy. He's a great investor in the area. He has a question for you.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hi, Denny. I was just curious because I've not really done the multis or anything, but one did come across my plate here recently. And is there just like a quick rule of thumb that you use? You know, if you got a 10 or 20 unit, that you just do like a 5-minute, this gets in my head and this is something I need to pursue or not pursue? Is it, I mean, if you got basically all you got is, okay, the unit looks decent, it's pulling in this much for gross rent, and you just got a general idea of the expenses?
Yeah, there's a quick calculation where if you know what the rents are in the area, right? And actually the rents that are currently on the property, let's say they're $1,000, right? So you take 20 units, you multiply it times, you know, $1,000, and you multiply it times 12. What's the math there, guys? 240,000?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you take that 240,000 and then you divide it, or you do, you know, a small property like that, the expenses are going to be about 40% more or less, right? So, you know, you could multiply that number times 60% to get the net operating income, maybe 60, maybe 55%. It depends on how the utilities work there, but just a rough 60%, if you're just paying for the water, the tenant paying for the electric, and that's going to give you your net operating income, kind of a basic number. If all the units are there, I don't know what that number is off the top of my head. What is it? 60, 200?
About 144,000.
Yep, 144,000. And then there you got a basic NOI. You just know what one of the rents are on average, let's say. And someone tells you, oh, the rents are about 1,000. Okay, so you got 144,000. Now the cap rate is kind of the kicker that you probably need to get. And then right now you probably can get that from a broker. You probably can get that from an appraiser. Let's say the market right now, the cap rates in different cities, they vary. They can go anywhere from 5 all the way to 8, maybe even higher. But let's say they're 7. You divide that by 0.7 as a cap rate. That's $2,057,000. That's a little bit like a quick back of the envelope, but you knowing a few figures, like the rent and the cap rate.
Okay. So once you get the
There
net
you go.
income, okay, you get the cap rate. Okay. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
And
Thank
that
you.
also can give you an opportunity too to see what upside there is, because maybe you're like, okay, the rents were 1,000, across the street they're getting 1,500. You're like, okay, so it's 2 million now. Can I increase them to 1,500? What will that take? Then you go into your analysis, which I would say would probably be more of Excel to do it easier. You can write it down too. It just take you a little bit longer, but then you're like, okay, how much renovations do I need to put in to rent the units for 1,500? And then how long will that take, and how the plan and everything.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
No problem. Sounds good. Yeah, no, it's I know if it's difficult to do it without doing like numbers in your head. Not everybody can do that. So write it down, and then also send me an email if you'd like. There's a book I can recommend where that kind of back of the envelope type of thing. It's there's a guy that goes through it.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
How much
Do you know the
more?
name of that book, Denny, offhand?
I know it's I don't know the exact title. I know the author is Steve Burgess.
Okay. That helps.
Yeah. The Ultimate Guide or something like that for apartments.
Chris Hedges, you had a question?
How much more are your closing fees on a commercial like this than a residential? What do you pay a realtor? We normally pay 6%, and what do you pay? I know you do have to do environmental and stuff. I mean, but what percent of the fees are closing?
I mean, I don't know about percentage wise. I just know that the fees are larger, right? And then the realtor commission, it depends, but typically instead of 6%, you'll pay 4%. Unless you get us over like maybe $10 million, then maybe they'll go down to 1% or 2%, right? Then, an environmental can cost anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000, depending who you're hiring. Then you have an appraisal. An appraisal can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 or more, depending how large the property is, how short the timeline the appraiser needs it. The inspection, we've paid $7,000 for an inspection, and then there's been inspections for $2,000. So they can really range. It also comes down to your lender sometimes. Like if you're using some more of like Fannie Mae or HUD or Freddie Mac, sometimes those inspections are a little bit more expensive because they have more things that they want included to be aware before doing the loan. And that's like the higher inspection that I told you about, 7,000. That was more of a HUD loan that we did.
What kind of rate are you getting from a bank now for commercial loans?
I mean, interest rates have dropped. The last loan I did was 4%, but then that was like right in the middle of the pandemic. I think they even dropped a little bit after that. I think they're in the 3s or maybe even lower.
For commercial?
Yeah. Of course, a community bank, it depends also the term of the loan. If it's 2 years, if it's 5, if it's 10, that all has a factor.
What banks do you have the best luck with?
For small properties, I would talk to credit unions. just talk to the local credit union closest to that property and see what they say and kind of go further out from there. Whatever you're buying or own.
You get much private money or mostly?
For for a property to finance it,
These larger ones, yeah.
we bring in equity partners in to acquire them, but to finance the whole property, no, we don't typically finance it with private money just because of the cost of them. And really, even credit unions just work out better than using private money because you can roll in all the renovations and everything. I think hard money is great, or private money, however, I don't know which one you're kind of leaning on. If it's just private money where someone's money and they have a lot of capital and they're willing to offer you competitive terms, like more than a community bank, that's great. But most people don't have, the size we're buying, like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. So we typically use community bank, and then we'll use equity for some of it. And we'll use private money for equity. That's what I'm saying.
Most of my banks are asking for 30%. You're getting banks though that'll go down to 20, huh?
That's my first loan. We got 20. We just did a loan with 30 because it needed so much renovations.
Yeah.
But you typically can get around 25%. But you just have to ask. And some banks do 20, but just this deal have to be right. And then they want, depends on, the borrower and a lot of other factors, but you got to shop around, you got to make a lot of calls to really find some of the terms that you want. Someone's going to do them, banks want to do loans, and they have all this money sitting there. They want to do it, and you just have to kind of find those people that do a little bit more competitive terms and that are a good fit. And the terms aren't everything, but sometimes they are if you can't get more equity, right? So just have to make sure you find it.
Denny, are you finding that the banks are asking for more credibility packet versus doing the single family world?
I mean,
are they looking for experience in real estate or in multifamily? That's what I've heard.
Yeah, there's more hoops to jump through with commercial real estate. One of the things that helped me out when I was getting started is, I had started doing, a master's in real estate. That just kind of a checkbox on the resume. Not everybody has to do that, but it was just a checkbox there. I've done a lot of other education through, the Institute of Real Estate Management, Urban Land Institute, the Apartment Association. So I try to always have like a lot of education kind of just to meet for that credibility. Having a great manager, great property manager makes a difference also, because that you can meet that experience through them. But they are looking for, how much liquidity you have after you close, which means how much cash are you going to have available after you close without putting it into the deal. How much money are you putting down? So it's kind of like similar to buying a house. They have more flexibility if the deal's really good and they like you, but there's still some hoops that you need to jump through. And I mean, that's another thing too. The good thing with commercial real estate is that you can bring in a sponsor, right? So like a sponsor is kind of like a co-signer for a car loan. If you don't have the credit, the experience, you can bring in someone that has it, like myself or anyone else, and say, hey, look, I found this deal. These are some of the terms that I'm looking to. I already did the analysis. I already did the homework. I know we can do this, this, and that. I need, someone to help me with the loan and maybe raise money or whatever. How much would the partnership work with? And then you can work that out too. And that's called sponsorship. And it's something that's very common in commercial real estate, especially when you're buying some of these big deals, because not a lot of people, you have to have sometimes a net worth that's equal to the size of the deal. And not everybody has a 40 or 30, $20 million net worth walking around,
I love that part, the sponsorship and leaning on other people's knowledge and experience already and utilizing that into your deal. I love that part.
Yeah, no, I think that's the good thing about commercial real estate that I like a lot too, is that you can work with a lot of other people together to accomplish a deal. And then there's still enough money to go around. That's kind of, that's a good thing and a bad thing too, because we're starting to also go to using less private capital. So we don't have to do as many deals because we think the market has changed. The market's harder to do deals right now. So if you don't have to use that much capital, you use your own capital, you do less deals, but you make the same money. So that's also something that we're looking at as well in our business.
What kind of liability insurance do you use for multi-units?
Just a regular one, the same thing like you would buy a house, like a rental house. Your insurance agent covers you for like $1 million, $2 or $3 million.
Do you stick to $1 million or do you go more since you're in a big complex?
Typically, it's 2 million at least.
2 million.
It's
yeah.
like 1 million per occurrence, 2 million maximum. And then some banks want they want $3 million. If you talk to an attorney, they're like, sometimes if you have more insurance, you got to, go target on your back. But it depends, who you're talking to.
What's the hardest part of the multi-units? The management, the closing, the finding them?
Finding them is always the hardest part, right? That's the hardest part. Finding a great deal is the hardest part, especially in this market. Then, I think then of course investors, because you're working with people, you got to line it up. You got to make sure people are committed, but you should have done that in advance. Hopefully start kind of putting out feelers over there. And when you find something, you already have people that are interested so they can jump and move pretty quickly. Then lastly, the closing, it's just a process. For your first time, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You got to go have the right inspections and do the right things. But after a while, it kind of becomes a little bit mechanical, right? Do your physical, you do your environmental, you do your survey, you do your lease analysis, all that stuff. And
Khalid, I think you have a question. You want to unmute yourself?
I'll probably take 3 more questions.
Okay, I know Khalid definitely has one, so I don't know if he can't unmute himself or not. While we're waiting for him to figure that part out, if he can, there was a question that came in regarding right now with the COVID times and everything. Have you seen anything change in regards to multifamily as far as, I don't know if you have clubhouses or a clubhouse at any of your facilities, or, things where they, swimming pools, they gym, that kind of stuff that people cannot use. And is that affecting things? Anything about the COVID thing that's affected your world?
Yeah, good question. We don't have any clubhouses or pools, thank goodness. So we don't have to deal with that.
Right.
Even though I would like to eventually in our next project, but it has affected evictions. So we had a unit that the person just stopped paying their rent, and they kind of blamed it on COVID. And we really try to work with them to get assistance, from the government, because there were some programs in the county. And man, they weren't willing to help themselves. It was just so frustrating. People, you bring the horse to water, right? But they have to drink it, right? It's kind of the same story.
Right.
And then they never applied for assistance. And then, we applied for eviction. And in the end, right now, they ended up leaving the unit. They ended up stealing the refrigerator and the stove. And we filed for abandonment. And we're waiting for the abandonment to pass the timeline, so that way we can take possession of the unit. So that's the story with them, because the eviction is still pending. We haven't even been able to get a court date on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to say that this out there to general information, I have a few folks, like I said, that I knew. Whoops, someone is not able. Oh, Khalid. Oh, did you get unmuted? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Khalid.
Turn off the computer.
Okay, here's Khalid with his question. Thank you.
Hey, Khalid.
Well, my question is, I just have a commercial vacant lot, and I want to build 10 or 12 rental units on it. So I'm actively looking for commercial loan. I have enough other property than that I can refinance and create some money for it.
Okay. So you're just looking for a commercial loan?
Correct.
Okay. Have you tried the community banks or credit unions near the property?
Couple of them, but nowadays everybody wants appointment and things like that. So I went to like 3 different banks. I'm waiting for the call back from them to do some kind of meeting with them.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be a numbers game, Khalid. You know, some banks, they specialize in development, some don't. So it's really finding the one, and you can tell in the conversation with a banker, guys. If you talk to a banker and you tell them what you're doing and they're giving you the cold shoulder, that's not your banker, you know?
Correct.
If you're
learned that
talking to
part.
them, yeah, if you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, Khalid, you're looking to do development? Yeah, we love development. Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, we like doing development. We've done development. We did this development. You know, what type of development that you're trying to do? You're trying to do office. You're trying to do multifamily. Oh, multifamily. Oh, we love multifamily. We know it's necessary. That's the banker you need. But if you're talking to a banker and you're telling them about development, or you're telling them about you want to buy an apartment, and they're like, oh, apartments. You know, we typically don't do apartments. We typically just do owner-occupied office buildings with doctors and with lawyers or with dentists or whatever. Don't waste time with that.
And also, one other thing, when you said your dad is from Dominican Republic, I did live in there for 6 months.
Really?
Back in '84, yeah.
Man, we probably have a lot to talk about, because I don't meet a lot of people that are
Yeah.
from there that live there. So I would love to hear about your experience.
That I didn't want to discuss it here. It will take time.
Yeah,
but we can talk later.
Yeah. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat with you.
I did save your number. We'll talk later.
Sounds good.
Hey, Denny.
Nope.
Hey, Denny. Quick question on the loan, the commercial loan that you get.
Yep.
What kind of terms are you getting for that? You said you got it at 3 point something %. Is that a 10-year term, 15-year term? What kind of terms?
Yeah, every term is different, and it depends on the deal itself, what the bank is going to be willing to do. You know, we got our term was 4% interest, so is our interest rate, and then I believe it was it's a variable loan with a 2-year interest only period, and then it amortizes, and then it stays fixed, I believe, for like 5 years or something like that, and then it renews, and then it stays fixed for 5 years. So it's kind of like a 12-year loan, but I'm not going to keep it for 12 years. I'm only keeping it probably for like a year and a half. So that's another tip, guys. If you want to save $40,000, don't try to stay away from loans with prepayment penalties. Why am I telling you this? Just try to stay away from them. Okay. Tell them you'll pay a half a point higher. You never know what's going to happen with your life. Maybe you get a great offer, so.
Hey, Khalid, real quick. I'm working with Center State. There's a couple guys there that are really good if you want to check them out here in Lakeland. And
One of them Danny?
What's that?
One of them name is Danny?
No, his name is Ty.
Okay,
Ty
I would
Pierce.
love to talk to him, yes.
Yeah, they're
so good. Liz, I have to take off.
Yes, I know it's baby time now, and we didn't thank you. I mean, congratulate you earlier, because I was so excited about you being here. But we truly congratulate you on your new baby. And is it a boy or a girl? Tell us that.
He's a boy, and he already is the king of the house. He came.
Of course.
I'm gonna take this title away right away, and I'm like, man. How you give up?
I love it.
The keys to the castle so quickly.
Hey, Denny, I have a quick question. What part of Dominican Republic are you from, or your family from?
My family is from the capital, which is Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo?
Yes, but also some of my family is from the east side,
Mhm.
which is more of the countryside, and it's called Mayor.
Okay. My family's from El Cibao, and my parents are from La Capital.
Okay, look at that.
Look at that. How about that?
Yeah, we Dominicans are everywhere, so that's
I'm
fantastic.
telling you, like El Arroz Blanco, right? For that, to interpret that is like white rice. We have that Spain in
Yeah.
Spain. We're like white rice. We're everywhere.
And if you haven't been to the Dominican Republic or you haven't really heard about it, it's really known for the resorts. So if you ever want to go to a good resort, it's a great place to go to a resort and vacation. So
I personally have an aunt that literally lives 3 minutes walking distance from Boca Chica, and I hung out there in the summer of '86 all summer.
oh wow. Yeah, no, that's a party spot, but that's for the locals. If you're a tourist, you probably don't want to go to Boca Chica unless you go with somebody that's from there. So we'll leave it there.
Exactly.
I've lived
Well,
there.
thank you so much, and congratulations on that baby again.
Yes.
It was very
Thank you,
informative.
Denny. We really appreciate you so much and the wonderful information you shared tonight. It was a great presentation. And Denny, you weren't here in the very beginning when I tell everybody what PCREIA's motto is, which is investors helping investors. And so I emphasize that at the beginning, and I want to say you walked in and you made that happen tonight. You made investors helping investors a real thing that's happening in real time. So thank you so much for being here tonight. We can't thank you enough, really.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad everyone got a lot out of it. And I hope to be back sometime in the near future.
Congratulations.
Yes, absolutely. All right.
We're going to have his information shared to the group, correct?
He had it at the very end there, but I'll make sure that everybody gets it. When I send out the recording, you'll get it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Denny.
All right.
All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Everybody, this wraps up our meeting for tonight. However, if you remember, we are having the meeting after the meeting, and you're welcome to stay. We may not go as late as we usually do tonight. We'll see how that goes, because Adrian's in Texas, and I'm just whipped. So I don't have any excuse except that. So we may have to end a little sooner.
Soon.
Okay. All right. So listen, just to wrap this up, I just want to thank you for inviting us into your home tonight. Be safe and God bless. We're here for you. See you at the next gathering. And let's give everybody an applause for us all. Thank you all for a great meeting. It was a good time tonight. Thank you. And for those of you who stay on, we'll start our happy hour meeting after the meeting in about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 now. Okay. Oh my gosh, he gave us some good information, right?
That was
I mean,
awesome.
he didn't have a lot of time to go into it, but we have not had anybody talk about apartment buildings and that type of, I got to stop the recording here. Oh, good night. There you go.